Welcome to another episode in the podcast series hosted by Helping Crisis 246, where we focus on teaching what you can do in a mental or emotional crisis and where you can find help when you just can't do it yourself. Now, the series is not limited to teaching how to deal with moments of crisis, but we also teach tips that anyone can use during any everyday moments to deal with stress, negative events, or negative emotions so that you deal with it in a more healthy way. And also how to take steps to get in touch with your more authentic self so that you can live more fulfilling lives. Because the reality is, more often than not, most of our negative emotions center around feelings of being suppressed, suffocated, or not living life the way we want to. So that getting in touch with those authentic desires, the authentic life we actually wish to live, often is the pathway to happier, healthier lives and more emotional and mental well-being. I'm Michelle Russell. I am an attorney and I am also a very passionate mental health advocate. And if this area interests you and you just want to learn everyday tips on how to deal with stress, be sure to follow us on our IG page, Helping Crisis 246, where I share a lot of video shorts that I don't necessarily share on the YouTube channel. But also be sure to subscribe to our Helping Crisis YouTube channel so that you can enjoy the podcast episodes. Now, one of my favorite kind of interviews is when persons come on the podcast to share from their own personal experiences, because there's no better teacher than when you can see someone who is relatable because they experience emotions you've experienced, they've experienced challenges you've experienced, and they are telling you how they were able to navigate it in healthier ways. But they don't make it seem like it was all easy and simple. They're very authentic in how they share.
Okay, so we have with us today Danielle Campbell. She is a corporate secretary / attorney. We met during our law school days. We did law around about the same time. She is born and bred in Trinidad and Tobago, as you'll probably hear from the accent. And she willingly has chosen to share her story on marriage, parenting, love, how she navigated some of the difficulties in that. And I'm really excited to hear because she's one of the most authentic people I've known. I love people who don't go around with this picture perfect idea of what life is and try to show as if, oh, I never suffer or I never have bad things, because she's also a strong believer in God. And what I've always admired is that she doesn't use one to mask the other. You know, it's not either or, it's both. You can love God and can have strong faith and still have hard times. But you know, the beliefs help you to navigate that better. So we're going to get into all of that. So Danielle, welcome.
Thank you, Michelle. It's lovely being here. Yes.
So Danielle, you are a mother of 4.
Yes.
Professional woman, mother of 4. Do you mind telling us your age, because it will become relevant?
Yes. Okay. Can I say I'm in my mid-40s? I mean, it's not that hard to,
me.
you know.
That works. So that we can put a timeline to it. And
Yes.
Are you currently married?
No, I am not. I am divorced. Right? Since 2018, I've been divorced. Yeah. It's been a while.
Can you take us a little through that journey of marriage and divorce? Because I do remember you happily in love, gaily in love, and how fussy you are about your children. Can you carry us on that journey?
Certainly. I met my ex-husband in 2003. Actually, I was still in Hugh Wooding Law School when I met him. I was in between or just approaching final year Hugh Wooding Law School.
So you were in your 20s, early 20s.
I was in my 20s, yep. I was like mid-20s or so. And then shortly after I graduated from Hugh Wooding, I got married to him in 2005. And, you know, we had the first child in 2008. That's my son. And then 3 girls following that, 1 in 2009. So I didn't have much space there between the first and second. And then I had another one in 2011, another girl. And then the last one was born in 2014. So that's a 9-year-old. And yeah, it's been, you know, People ask me, Danielle, was it a bad marriage? I would say no, it was not a bad marriage, right? From the start. We had our typical newlywed problems, adjusting to being with someone, getting up next to someone, the demands of marriage. I think too, the shock of new responsibilities, that people don't really prepare you for before marriage. But to me, it was a normal marriage.
What are these new responsibilities we're not prepared for? Tell me about that.
New responsibilities. It's really just, I can't pinpoint individual responsibilities, Michelle, but it's really the overall gamut of being married. It is a responsibility. And with it comes certain, sort of nuanced codes and rules, that you kind of have to live by, or at least we are told to live by. And it's really taken into consideration that now I have somebody here that I have to think about all the time. I can't just leave the house. You know what I mean? If you're single, you leave in the house, you don't have to answer to anybody. You don't have to tell them where you're going, right? Now I have to say where I'm going, when I'm coming back. Oh yeah, we have kids. All right. So now I have to filter into my social life. Children, pickups, drop-offs, I may not have a social life. All of these things now, instead of, thinking about, let me cook for myself. Now you're cooking for two, and then it became cooking for three, and then four, and then six. It doesn't jump on you all the time, but the changes are there. They are there.
And were you working during this time?
I was, but I had actually joined, I would say, no, let me put it this way. We had opened our own business, a marketing company, shortly after we got married, actually. So in 2005, I would say probably by the end of 2005, we had opened our own business. So
So you were working together, living together, navigating life together.
Yes.
Did that bring any additional stresses? Because there's some who believe you shouldn't work with your spouse.
Of course. And we got advice from business people, people who were close to us to say, girl, I don't know if you should be, working with a husband. When do you all, put down work and talk about, marriage stuff or couple stuff? You know what I mean? Because separating business from personal, it's really, it can be so arduous and very difficult to do. Very difficult when you're working with your spouse, and then you take the anger or the disagreement from work, you could take it home, and yeah, we experienced that for sure. So it wasn't easy.
Something we don't talk about enough about women and marriage, which is your identity. Because what I'm hearing here is you got married out of law school. So, well, shortly after 2 years, which sounds like a decent time, but you moved from student to new worker to wife to mother. And that's a whole bunch of additions to your identity in what would have been just a few years.
Correct.
How did you deal with that change in not just the responsibilities, but Danielle the mother, Danielle the wife, Danielle the business owner, Danielle the no longer student, Danielle the finding her way, Danielle the strong believer in Christ, Danielle the friend, Danielle do you have siblings? The sister, the daughter?
I'm a sister to many. I'm not. I no longer have a sister, but yeah, I'm a sister to many. Yeah. So
tell me about that identity adjustment.
Truth be told, it was, when you're in it, you don't think about it too much, because I think at that time things happened so quickly. It was literally right. So law school, then engagement in 2004, then marriage in 2005, right? So basically between law school and wedding, it was me moving, it was me preparing for a wedding, and mixed up in that was me trying to find where or what I wanted to do as a career, but I'm not being sure. And the thing is, I knew in between all of that I really wasn't comfortable doing law. I didn't really want to do law, but I did it because, well, I said, listen, I start and I need to finish what I start. And I did that. I went through the 5 years. But while other people were sure that, hey, I'm going to go corporate and I'm going to do litigation and criminal and, people around you just know what they want, I wasn't one of those people. And coupled with that was this new undertaking of being married. Your identity, my identity was not something that was a priority to me. What I wanted at that time was just to do what I probably knew that people wanted me to do. So, and that was good enough for me.
And that's very honest.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was the reality, right? So, and I mean, maybe I'm thinking that maybe somewhere in between, I'll find myself, I'll find my purpose, I'll find what I want to do or who I want to be. It must come up at some point. It must appear to me, maybe I'll get up one morning and have an epiphany, and then it's going to happen. That was my thought, for quite a bit of that period. And then, 2 years after we got married, the first child came. And of course, immediately you're going into the gear of being a mother, and being a first-time mother in itself was, it wasn't difficult. Thank God I had a lot of support from both sides, his family, my family. But it's still, I mean, mother is a role, right? Mother is a hell of a role. So I can tell you that through all of that, I think I took the identity of whatever was hoisted upon me at that time. It was sort of automatic, but I don't know whether I consciously fit into those roles at that time. I just did what was asked. I did what was expected. That's about it.
And I think that so many women can relate to that, and so many men, because we are raised to marry and procreate, or we are raised to partner and procreate. So even if you don't get married, that's the ultimate goal of life. Form a family, work, die. That's really what it is. And many people don't actually examine, do they actually want this? And if they want it, what do they want it to look like outside of what you see on TV or social media? And there was never a time to choose an identity. You kind of just assume what is before you and what people say you should be. And I think that's why so many people feel so lost in the midst of all the responsibilities. And then they feel ashamed for feeling lost, because they think they internalize the shame as, am I saying I'm ungrateful for my kids, or am I saying I'm ungrateful for my life, for my husband? When it's actually a much deeper issue that's going on. It has nothing to do with ingratitude.
Absolutely.
It's more about feeling kind of lost and wanting your footing.
Yeah. And I mean, that's an excellent point. And, one of the things that I realized that I did, and I mean, Michelle, one of the things I know that I've grown by owning up to my mistakes. One of the biggest mistakes I made in my life was handing over my identity to people, handing over who I needed to be to others. Okay, you want me to be a lawyer? Okay. You want me to be a mother? Okay. You want me to be a mother for? Okay. Not that I am ungrateful for any of those roles. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying that the giving up of is something that women especially, we do it, and we do it almost naturally. And, the thing is that I think that we are brought up and we are socialized to believe that this is what we do. Giving up of ourselves is something that's natural, nobody's to question you about it. And as you rightly said, if you start to sort of step outside of accepting what is hoisted upon you, then you are a rebel, or you are that other kind of woman, or are you a woman at all? You know what I mean? Because you're defying all what femininity is supposed to be. And I handed over a lot of that responsibility to those around me. and when you do that, you really do lose yourself. And the thing is that I made a promise to myself eventually that I didn't want to be 60, 70, 80 years old, regretting that thing about who am I? It sounds like a very superficial question, but to me, it is so existential. It's almost as powerful as why. There's always that question. Why is the most powerful question you could ask. Who am I is also another powerful question. And do we dare to ask ourselves that? Sometimes we don't dare to ask ourselves that because it could bring up things that are not part of the status quo.
It might force us to look at parts of ourselves we don't like, parts of ourselves we don't like. And if you acknowledge you don't like it, you're kind of nudged into what am I going to do about it? And sometimes we don't want the responsibility of change.
Correct. Because change takes a lot of pain. It takes a lot of discomfort. It takes maybe losing people around you, losing favor with friends, losing favor with parents, maybe even your own spouse, because you are stepping out. People are like, what's going on here? They don't understand the change. And then sometimes you may not even understand the change that you're undergoing yourself, but you know that you have to change in order, not just for you to be better, but even for those who are kind of rejecting you to be better. But how do you go through explaining all of that? Sometimes you can't explain it. Sometimes you just have to take that leap of faith,
And sometimes it's the fear of losing the dream.
Ah, yes, definitely.
If all you ever wanted was to be a wife and a mom.
Yes.
And you're in a relationship that you feel that, God gave you this, the universe blessed you with this. How do I walk away from this thing? And who will I be after? What will my identity look like? Does it mean I have to be alone for the rest of my life? Can I handle that? Do I even want that? Will anyone love me? Will I be discarded goods? And the irony of it is that we'll have men who divorce and have 4 kids.
Yes.
Hell, they could have 8 kids, 4 from the marriage, 4 somewhere else.
Correct.
And no one thinks of them as discarded goods or say, what are your chances of remarrying? But sometimes even just having 1 child as a woman, you have to worry, will a man want to accept me and my child? Will this affect my chances of remarriage or repartnering? And these are real things we have to deal with that sometimes keep us stuck in relationships that no longer serve us. That we've left mentally a long time ago. What we're afraid to do anything. And I want to say this as a disclaimer because I've seen these comments before. I am not anti-marriage. The people I bring on here are not anti-marriage. We are healthy love. That's all it is. We promote healthy, fulfilling love, which is not always the easiest thing to find. In fact, it's really, really hard because you really have to find yourself first, which is where this whole identity thing comes in, before you can find something fulfilling. Because sometimes you had the opportunity for healthy love and you're the one messing it up. So we're not anti-men and anti-marriage. We're just talking about the reality of lives we live. Huh?
Absolutely. And I believe in marriage. I do. I understand its role, in society. I understand it. I mean, I've lived in it. I understand it. The thing is, though, and the point about the expectations of women and rather, when we're divorced, women with children especially, I've been told by a couple of people that, hey, I know, listen, I know it's going to be real hard for you to find a next man, with 4 children, that's a hell of a, you know what I mean? It's like, people have told me that before, but I'll tell you this. It will only bother a woman. That statement will only bother a woman if her values, her personal values incorporate marriage as the pinnacle. So I think when we look at what we want to achieve and where we're at, Michelle, I think it's important that men and women, we look at our values. If we hold marriage as the ultimate goal, that statement will bother us.
Yes.
If we hold money as the ultimate goal, then another statement will mean something to us. Life, family, career, it's what you hold as the most valuable. And we all have values. We all have a list of values. We all prioritize particular values. What do you hold as valuable in your life? And when I was younger, marriage was on top. Marriage was probably first or second out of a whole, line of values. So I knew that being married was important to me. And I had to be married at 27. I told my grandmother this actually before I met my ex. I told my grandmother, I'm going to be married before 27. I didn't even meet my ex yet. But I had it there because it was something that was important to me at the time, which is fine. But when things go south, when things don't turn out the way you want it to be, are you willing to change those values? Are you willing to really step out and adjust those values? And it's okay to change your values. It's okay that 10 years down the line, and it doesn't mean that if you're married for 10 years and marriage is no longer the pinnacle in that 10-year span, it's bad and you're going to leave your husband and then that's it. I don't mean that, but I just mean in terms of where do you place your importance? And again, society places and imposes these values on us very subtly. Sometimes it's overt, sometimes it's very subtle. And we have to take these cues and really figure out what's of importance to me.
I love this. Because it's so true. I mean, especially when you reach 30, you're still not married. And I can tell you up to that point, I really did obsess about it. And it wasn't until perhaps sometime after, and life changes and those things that I started to have the courage, because it takes a lot of courage, to question, do I even want to be married? And it was never something I'd allowed myself to even think about, because I grew up very religious. So that was like, you can't have a man without being married. Like, so how do you think outside of marriage? Like, you can't have sex without marriage. You can't, I grew up in that kind of environment. So that I've never once wondered, what does partnership look like outside of marriage? And then, the question of children. I love kids. I don't have a problem with kids, but I was never, like some people talk about they love being pregnant and all of this. I look at it and go, oh, that's good. Like, I never had this strong, I need this. But you're told if you don't, something's wrong with you, something's broken in you.
Yes. Yep.
And so I do know a lot of women struggle with that. And I've been seeing a lot of stuff lately, like on social media, people who comment and say sometimes the reason some women are not good wives is that they never really wanted to be wives, but they never stopped to think if they did want that. And why some aren't as nurturing as mothers is because perhaps mothering was just something they accepted as part of their role, but never thought, is this what I really want to be?
Definitely. And I think, religion plays a big part. Obviously, you know what I mean? We still live in a very religious society, right? So, and one thing in common with most of the religions, so I hope I didn't make a noise there, is that woman marriage, you need to do this by, this age, otherwise, that's it. You need to have children the first one by at least this age. Biologically, scientifically, I understand that. Because biologically there is a cutoff, for us. But the thing is that there's so much pressure for us to fulfill this role. It's stressful. I know people, like you, who don't have children. And they are stressed. In their 40s, they are stressed because they know that, oh my God, my clock is ticking and I haven't done this and I haven't done. These are successful professional women as well, like you, who are right now feeling pressure because, and, divorce, I should say, religion also plays another role in terms of whether you want to move out of a marriage or not. I know that there are women who want to leave a marriage, but they're like, oh my gosh, but I'm Catholic, I'm Christian. I can't divorce. I mean, how would it look? How would it look to my church, to my parish, to my church elders? I can't have my children, living out of marriage. That's madness. I got 2 or 3 people asking me when I had made my decision, about leaving the marriage. They asked me, so what about the children? Aren't you thinking about the children? And I'm like, I am thinking about the children. That's why I'm making this decision. Why do people think that you are not thinking about the people you love when you are making a decision to step out? Like, how does that even compute? And they know that you're not a naturally selfish person. They know that you're not a person to make rash decisions and so on. Why are we asked those questions as women? It's with them in mind,
But
That's society.
so here you have the difficulty of making the decision because of religious beliefs. You have friends,
Yes.
maybe even family, and your own dream of being married.
Mm-hmm.
How did you even manage to get there? Like, how did you know that this was the best decision for you and your husband?
That's a very good question. And it didn't happen all in one. Obviously, divorce never does, right? It's always there's always a lead up period. There's always, things that, come up and sort of snowballs.
And this was what, 13 years of marriage?
This is 13 years of marriage, 2005 to 2018. But we really separated in 2016, 2017. So it unraveled in late 2015. And I don't know, Michelle, it's like watching your own self in a movie. I can't even begin to really answer your question in terms of how does it get there. All I can say is that it got there. There were always maybe hints of discord, but you let things go under the rug. You let things, for the sake of the children, you keep things at peace. And that's it. It just unravels, and then court. All of a sudden you're in court. You're going through this divorce court and this family court. And things happened. When you're in the moment, things don't happen fast enough. But looking back, things happen really quickly. Things happened quickly in that time.
And what were the emotions for you like during that time?
Fear, a lot of fear of the unknown. I don't know. I never grew up with divorce. My parents are married, 50 something years. So I'm not a child of divorce. So not knowing was very fearful. I was very fearful because of that. There was a level of anger as well. Anger at myself, anger at him, anxiety, of course, and not to mention the stress, because I was trying to work, and get myself together, get my finances together, while, dealing with court, giving instructions and making these court appearances and who calling you to find out how you're going and what's going on. And, it was like a lot. It was a lot. And I had to find anchors in certain things. Of course, God being the first one, and certain rituals that I did, Rituals meaning habits that I, took up to keep myself sane, to
Tell
keep
me
myself
about that.
focused.
What were some of these habits?
Oh my God. Yeah, well, of course, prayer was the first one, right? So there would be particular prayers that I would use, that I would read in the morning, and then, just before bed. There were particular prayers that I prayed. And then what I did too is that I also, formed a tribe of people. I had a tribe of people, and I think that's also very important when you're going through these challenges, to make sure you have a tribe. And I use the word tribe in particular, because these are the people who, would rally with you. They're like your soldiers. They're linking arms on either side of you, and they're going through the trenches with you.
Good.
And thank God I had that. Yeah, thank God I had those people. My parents were there. And they were just these practices that I did to really try to get through and move. And when I get stuck, I would ramp it up again, ramp up the prayers and and then move again, so it was like, whew, it was a lot. It was a lot. I also, sought therapy. I made sure I had to mention, I made sure to seek therapy, right? It wasn't often, but it was often enough throughout the process, because I knew I had to have a check and balance mentally for whatever I was going through, and for my children.
You said you were
That's
angry
really
at
what
yourself.
Yeah.
Can you share some of what made you angry at yourself? And I've noticed you haven't mentioned sadness. And I would imagine sadness would have been the
Yes.
primary feeling during that time, but I might be being presumptuous.
It wasn't primary. Honestly, it wasn't primary during the whole process. It was fear that was the primary emotion. Sadness more happened towards the tail end of the process, where I knew that there was a sort of a finality to a marriage, to a union. And in terms of the anger, yeah, I felt angry at myself at times. There were things that I suppose I started to realize that there are things that I sacrificed, parts of myself that I sacrificed, that I ought not to have. One of them was my career. When we met, I was working, and I had a pretty decent job, now coming out of law school. And I left that job, as I told you, to join, to be with him in the business. But when I was going through the separation, I realized that I didn't have a career. I had a business, but that was okay. But my career, and again, we talk about values, right? My career was something that I valued, but I didn't realize how much I valued my career until I realized I didn't have any, and so I was left without, the funds and the finances that I could have had I stayed in, or with a career. So, there were times when I just didn't know how I was going to buy certain things. There were days that I struggled. This is reality. And I mean, you have a pride in you that says, Danielle, how the hell you reach here? You are an attorney by profession. You came from a family that did well. Your parents are, upstanding people in society. How the hell did you reach here? So all of that, I was more angry at myself than anybody else, because I felt as though I should have put things in place, and I didn't. I neglected myself. I'm not angry at myself anymore.
Yes. What advice would you give to women about love? How they guard themselves in love, but love freely and fully? And about parenting, how they be the best, most
Mm.
nurturing mothers while saving some of themselves.
Mm. Michelle, you see, self-love? Self-love is key. And self-love is key because it's not a selfish love. It's not the love that you see on social media. You know, I love how I look. I love how I look in the mirror. I love my body. I love this outfit on me. No, I mean self-love, meaning loving, really, really recognizing and tapping into who you are as a human being. That first, right? That first, I would say, of course, love of God first, and then self-love. Let me
Right.
just put that there.
Right,
Everything
right.
flows from that. Everything flows from that. Because you see, you know that whole, you know that analogy they put with, you know, when the gas mask drop down in the airplane, you put on a mask first on yourself, and then you turn and put your mask up your children. That's self-love. Take care of yourself first. Love. We still have this view of the fairy tale and the happily ever after and the romantic love, which is fine. It has its place. We all like to feel fuzzy. We all like to feel, you know, we like the sexy, we like the, you know, we like that romantic feeling, the wine and dine. Nothing's wrong with that. But we have to understand that that has its place, and that's for a time. It doesn't last. But the love that we have for ourselves, that is love, because we have to spend the rest of us, our lives with ourselves, understanding us first, feeling ourselves, and then everything flows from that. And then you would feel, or then you would understand, having loved yourself, the kind of love that you want to give to your partner, the love you can give to your children. And yes, as a mother, that love, it will come. And even though you may not naturally be a nurturer and you have children, it will come because you understand that these human beings are dependent on you. It will come, you know, and if it doesn't come to you naturally, certainly, you know, let your tribe, build a tribe of people who can help you nurture those children, because yeah, we can't do it on our own. We also need that set of people to help us raise our children and love our children and give to our children where we fall short, because sometimes we will fall short. So that really is from my personal experience, that to me is, you know, what we can gift ourselves and gift to people around us.
Do you believe you robbed your children of anything by divorcing?
I felt guilty for them being not part of a marriage, not growing up. I did feel guilty. But then I also sat them down and I spoke to them, you know, a couple of times. I won't say a couple of times, quite a few times, about why the divorce happened. And I think if we are honest with our children, as we need to be honest with ourselves, they will understand. They may not fully understand, but they will understand that, hey, listen, you know, it's okay. You are still whole. Children of divorced parents are still whole. You are not from a broken family. You are part of a family. This is the family here. This is unit. And you know, the thing is that before they go to bed, I make sure I pray out loud to them every night. And I say, Lord, guide our family, our whole family. And I say, five of us, you know, and I make sure to count. It's 4 children and it's mommy. We're a whole family. It's okay. And I pray for the father too. We just took a different shape, but it's not a broken family. Don't ever say that a divorced family is a broken family. That's like calling patois a broken language. No, patois is a language in of itself. Have respect.
Good. Very, very
Yes.
good.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would 40-something-year-old Danielle say to her 20-something-year-old self?
Take your time. Take your time.
Really?
Take your time. You don't have to do this in your 20s. You don't have to. Find yourself, enjoy life more, live more, love yourself more. It's okay to be weird. It's okay to not want to do law. You might want to do art. Go ahead and create. You don't have to procreate. That procreation will come later. That's creation too. But create with yourself and by yourself for now. It's okay. You'll have the time. Take your time.
I love that, actually. I love that. And what's life like now? This is what, 4 or 5 years post-divorce? How are you? How are you handling that new life?
It's more up than down. I have to say, thank God. I work full time, as you know. I have 3 of my 4 children here with me. One just migrated to pursue tennis. So, I'm partially an empty nester. But Michelle, I'm embracing life a lot more. there are parts of me that are being revealed every week, every day. And I'm loving myself a lot more and appreciating my strength and the courage that I've had to build, and just really spending more time with my children. The things that are stressing me out are things that I know are temporary, and just keeping that faith and keeping anchored and grounded in my faith and in who I am and who God has meant for me to be. That's life for me now. Very simple, and keep on taking care of my mental health. I still go to therapy. I've kept that up, to sort of make sure that, I'm fleshing things out and whatever I have in my mind, I'm able to speak it out. And but I'm good. I'm real good.
That is great news. So that we've had themes today of identity, taking the time to figure out who that is, because that's the key to most else. We've had the lovely advice of take your time. There will be time. Like, take your time. And being able to not give up autonomy on who you choose to be, the career, the path, all of that. Not give up the right to agency. Learning to forgive yourself for the mistakes you might have made. And to find the courage to make sometimes really hard and painful decisions, knowing that you'll come out on the other side. But I think one of my favorite themes was the need for the tribe during hard times, because hard moments feel even worse when you have to endure them on your own. I agree. Thank you so much. Like, I'm looking forward to rewatching this, just so that I can memorize some of the things you said. And I can only imagine how helpful it will be, particularly to young women. At any stage of the path, to be honest, those just starting life, those in the middle of what can be more difficult love relationships, those struggling with parenting, struggling with hard decisions. So many gems here, and I am so grateful to you for being willing to share.
Thank you so much.